Ella Harper, the Camel Girl. This is the haunting story of Ella Harper, a young woman born with a body that defied the natural order and a life caught between curiosity, exploitation, and mystery. Ella Harper entered the world in 1870 in Hendersonville, Tennessee. From the moment she was born, it was clear her life would be anything but ordinary. Ella suffered from an extremely rare condition known as genu recurvatum, a deformity that caused her knees to bend backward. Instead of walking upright like other children, she found herself more stable when moving on all fours. Imagine the stares, the whispers, the cruel names. And yet, her unusual body would one day make her both famous and infamous. By her teenage years, Ella had been drawn into the world of the sideshow circus, where human oddities were put on stage for paying audiences. It was here she was given the name that would follow her forever, the Camel Girl. Why? Because her knees bent like the legs of a camel. And to make the act even more sensational, she was often displayed next to a real camel, forced to embody the cruel comparison. Crowds were stunned. Posters declared her the greatest natural wonder of the age. She was both fascinating and grotesque to the Victorian public. Newspapers reported on her with a mixture of awe and pity. To audiences of the 1880s, she was not just Ella, she was the Camel Girl. But behind the showbiz glitter lay a young woman who longed for something else. Unlike many of her fellow performers, Ella was intelligent, thoughtful, and ambitious. She once confessed in an interview that she wanted to leave the sideshow world to pursue an education. And in 1886, at just 16 years old, she made a shocking decision. She walked away from the circus. For a time, her story fades into shadows. What became of her? Rumors swirled. Some said she lived a quiet life as a teacher. Others claimed she vanished into poverty. The truth, uncovered in later records, paints a more complex picture. Ella returned home to Tennessee and enrolled in school, determined to find dignity outside of exploitation. She was baptized in 1886 and lived with her family. Census records show her as part of an ordinary household, an attempt perhaps to reclaim normalcy. But tragedy followed her. She lost a twin brother in infancy, and later, other siblings would die young. Ella herself would never marry, though whispers claimed that men courted her out of fascination. Whether she turned them away or society rejected her, we cannot know. In 1905, Ella Harper married a man named Robert Savely, a bookkeeper. For the first time, it seemed she had escaped the cruel spectacle of the circus. They even adopted a child, a daughter named Mabel. But fate was merciless. The little girl died at only 18 months old. Grief crushed Ella's brief happiness. She never had more children. Soon after, records of her life become faint, as though she slipped back into obscurity. Some claim she lived quietly with Robert until her own death. Others insist she carried a lifelong burden of depression. What we do know is that Ella Harper, the Camel Girl, died in 1921 at the age of just 51. Her grave lies in Spring Hill Cemetery in Nashville, Tennessee, modest, unremarkable, far from the carnival posters that once plastered her name across America. But her story lingers. Was she merely a victim of exploitation? Or was she in some way empowered by turning her deformity into a means of survival? Did she resent the name Camel Girl, or did she secretly take pride in captivating thousands? And why, even after she left the circus, does her memory remain tied to that cruel moniker? Perhaps it is because Ella Harper embodies the paradox of the sideshow age, a time when human suffering was transformed into entertainment, when people came not to understand, but to stare. And yet, beneath the posters and the gawking crowds, she was still a young woman, a daughter, a wife, a mother who knew heartbreak, whose greatest wish was not to be remembered as the Camel Girl, but simply as Ella. Her knees bent backward, but her courage faced forward. Behind every freak show name, there was always a human being. And Ella Harper's story reminds us just how fragile and fleeting that humanity could be. But Ella Harper's tragic tale is just one among many. Have you heard the story of Myrtle Corbin, the woman born with 4 legs who shocked and fascinated the world? If not, click here and discover her haunting journey next.